It's the final percent. The final percent.
Hello, and thank you so much for tuning into the Final Percent podcast. And today, I am coming to you from a hotel room in Little America, Wyoming. And we are actually on our way to a business retreat up in Fish Haven, Idaho. And this podcast, and I struggle to say that this is, showing up, that concept. You have to show up. You have to show up. You have to keep having the conversations. And the answer is, it's just true. I mean, that is the secret sauce. And when my wife and I are in the car, and I mean, we had so many unbelievable fires to have to put out before we could hit the road, before we could go try to further our dreams, before we could go try to, meet that next person, meet the person who we can build that business with, sparks that idea. And where we're going is up at some mansion that is going to be over the lake, 200 of the just incredible people that we're going to get to speak with and work with and engage with and have those conversations. And as my wife and I were driving and we got on the road, like I said, absolutely too late, we still show up. We still keep going. And we were talking about on the way up here, like, man, we live such an insane life because we get invited to these events and we are the people who will absolutely show up. And I kind of want to take this into a new direction because we talk a lot about showing up for yourself. Show up so you can have those conversations. But the thing that kind of became known to me is when I'm getting to work with my wife's sitting right next to me. We're, doing the things that you do when you travel and we're laughing and we got inquisitive on one of them and we looked up how much horsepower does a locomotive have? And we figured out it was about 18,000 horsepower. And we said, okay, well, how much torque does a locomotive have? Because we went by this train that had two locomotives on the front end, on the back end. And it was train cars, but they were stacked. It was double stacked. And I was like, man, how much weight are those things able to pull? How do you synchronize the whole thing? And I had all these questions, and I sought out the answer. But here's the thing. My wife was just as curious. And the secret sauce in friendships, the secret sauce in business relationships, in normal relationships, romantic relationships, is never let your curiosity die. And if we look at the seed of what does it take to show up, most people right now are showing up because they want something. They're showing up because they are making a last-ditch effort. They're throwing the Hail Mary pass. They come out of desperation. But the reason that my wife and I are showing up is because of curiosity. And if you let your heart lead you, you let your brain lead you, you let your gut lead you, and pretty soon all three of these things start working in harmony, but you need to recognize the seed of being able to show up properly is absolutely curiosity. And you can never let your curiosity die. Curiosity is the spice of life. One of the things that a great person that I got to learn under for a long time, he said, never get mad, get curious. And when that negativity rears its head, when you get, downtrodden, you're sad, you're upset, get curious. How did we get here? I don't want to get mad at why that person said that to me or, didn't like my post or did like my post or said this or said that. I want to get curious about how did we get here? And don't get mad at yourself. Don't beat yourself down. Get curious. Hey, why is this happening again? Why did I get the same result? Maybe it's time to do the work. Maybe it's time to not wait for it to happen. I think these are important distinctions, and that was the thing, because we're in the car, we're driving to Idaho, and we started having the question, what are we doing? Why are we going? We just know that great people are going to be there. Difference makers are going to be there. And when great people get around other great people, they go great places. And this is what Jim Collins says. He says, do not get on the bus because of where the bus is going. Get on the bus because of who else is on the bus. Because remember, you're just one conversation away from changing your life. You're one conversation away to having that exponential shift happen. That person who just helps you adapt, helps you, realize your true potential. Remember, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak had to start with a conversation. They were curious about one another. They were curious about these crazy things called computers. And curiosity is just such an underutilized, I think, absolute strength that we need to start recognizing that creativity comes from curiosity. Any revolution comes from curiosity. Love comes from curiosity. Your next big break needs to come from curiosity. You are never going to just find your next big thing. It gets built day in and day out. I'm going to end with a story because, it is 10:10 in a hotel room in Little America, and we haven't eaten yet, and we're going to go try to grab some grub before we have to wake up at like 6 o'clock in the morning and drive another 100 miles to get to Fish Haven, Idaho. But I'll say it like this. When I was young, I wanted to learn karate. I wanted to be a karate guy. I watched Karate Kid. And I started. I had fun. I went in there. But it turns out karate is basically another word for discipline. And you have to put in the work. You have to put in the work. And you got to sometimes get punched in the face. You got to get thrown to the mat. And here's what happened. I was in karate for about a month, and I was going to graduate to get my first belt. And I think it was just literally, you didn't have anything, and I was just going to get my white belt. That basically meant, I didn't quit after the first month. And you had like a basic kata. If you don't know what that is, basically like a karate dance, a series of moves that you have to remember, do in succession or in series that they are testing you on. And my dad drives me up. This is when I was maybe, 7 or 8, somewhere in there. My dad drives me up and he says, okay, I'm excited. You're going to go get your white belt, Greg. And I was just absolutely stricken with fear. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. I didn't even want to look at my dad. And I looked over at him and I said, Dad, I want to go home. I want to go home. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. And that was the first time, guys, this isn't a triumphant story about, and then my dad gave me a motivational speech and I walked in there and I just kicked everyone's butt and they were like, you know what, we're passing you on to black belt. No, I quit. I did go home. I did not follow through. And I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, wow, that was my first real, I give up. I'm not doing this. And I hated it. I hated it. But why did I hate it? Why did I quit? So recently I was thinking about this. Why on earth did I quit? That is so out of my nature. I don't quit. I'm a perseverance expert. If I'm great at one thing, it's not quitting. So in that moment, this first huge crushing blow to who I think I am, I quit. Now, why did I quit? It's because I knew I absolutely knew I did not do the work. I was not ready. And it's kind of like learning guitar, learning piano. You can't just only practice when you're with your teacher. You have to take that home. You have to do the work. You have to be disciplined. And you have to show up. But you have to show up for yourself. You have to show up for others. And you have to get curious in your mindset, curious on why you're there. Curiosity is that thing you can start leaning into that will restoke the fire of motivation, restoke the fire of inspiration, and it will help you because it comes from a little different place than inspiration, motivation, or just getting a kick in the butt. Curiosity comes from, I think, your gut. It comes from deep within you. It comes from a place in your heart. So get curious about life. Don't get mad, get curious. And especially, I'm using this curiosity phrase to say, hey, use it to get started, but especially in the end as well, when negative things start happening, especially when you get things on repeat or people on repeat, start just saying, don't get mad, how did we get here? Because part of it's probably your fault. Part of it's probably their fault. Part of it's probably circumstantial. But get curious so that you can identify and be aware of those things, because that's an opportunity to get better. And my wife and I are coming up here to meet with people, not because we're trying to get anything, because to be honest with you, we don't fully understand what we're going to. We just know that Sharon Lecter's friend invited us to his house in a great retreat setting. Do you want to come? Sure. I don't know what I'm going to get out of it, but that's the beauty of it. I'm curious on what's possible. And because I don't have an agenda, or I need to make $10,000 worth of sales, or I need to close $1 million project, or I need to do some fundraising, or I need to let everyone know about my nonprofit, doesn't matter. I just want to have conversations, and whatever comes up, comes up. I'm very open. I'm curious on the possible. I'm curious on what we can do. And quite frankly, I just absolutely love sitting next to my wife in a car going damn near anywhere. So we get curious together. And from the showing up, my wife and I get curious about each other. Hey, what are you thinking? Hey, how much horsepower does a train have? We get curious. Hey, are you okay right now? Hey, how can I make you feel better? One of the things my wife does all the time is she'll do my feet, which she'll massage them sometimes when we're watching TV or whatever. And half the time, she's curious about what kind of day I had. Did I get my butt kicked? Is something going on? So if I get quiet, I'm introspective, I'm trying to figure some stuff out. Usually the lotion comes out, and that's a little bit of a code of, hey, I'm curious on what actually happened. So maybe I'll relax you so you tell me what's going on. Get curious about everything in your life. Ask the question why. Love on your life. Love on you. Love on that crazy person in the mirror that has those dreams. And don't be scared to be curious, because it is the spice of life. So with that being said, this has been The Final Percent.